topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you ready for Insights to Incite? Ready or not, it's showtime. Now get ready to listen in and watch right here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Join us and together we will escape the mundane. Insights to Incite, here is your host, Brandon Lawson.
Friends, this is Brandon Lawson to be exact. I personally want to thank you for joining us today, coming and, tuning into our show, because if you were not here or no one else is present, there would really be no purpose in even broadcasting my show. I mean, I would be, if no one's to come, I'd be best just to have my show recorded off air and to relegate to having nothing more than a podcast. So those of you who have come today, I just want to say thank you. And today is Thursday, September 16th, and we will be getting into lesson number 6 in our series, The Why Message. Last week, before I got into the meat of my lesson, or the main part of it, of the message, I briefly reviewed the first 4 lessons. And for lesson 5, the script was flipped, you may recall. In the first 4 lessons, the person was being, challenged and questioned and sort of nagged at. He was being told every thing he was being told about was where he was falling short. And then in lesson 5, that same person whom all these misnomers were pointed at, he spoke. And the title of last week's lesson was, "You never tell me anything that I do that is right or good. Why?" Well, today's lesson follows the same line. And I've titled today's lesson, "You're always telling me what needs to be done. But why? I mean, you could do plenty of the things that are on this list." Does that remind you of anyone? I mean, have you had that person who, this person could very well be depicted as lazy. One thing is for sure, they are one of many who won't work. And if they don't, as long as they don't have to, they won't. And I love how the great poet Robert Frost has described the population of the world. Frost said, "The world is full of willing people, some willing to work, the rest willing to let them." Well, this person we're speaking of today, the one who's sort of the culprit of the lesson here, is of the latter part, the ones who are willing to let them just sit back and let everybody else work. Well, one thing we can be assured of when we think of this person is he wants to be your taskmaster. She wants to rule over you. And these people are those who have a list of tasks for you to do, and more than half of them they could have done themselves. Yet they didn't. Some of those tasks were difficult to some extent, but others were simple and easy. Yet they delegated all of them to you. Have you been on the receiving end of this? If so, what did you do? I mean, did you just put up with it? If not, What steps did you take? I mean, how did you deal with this person and manage the situation? It is a fact. Yes. Excuse me. It is a fact. No one, not one, I repeat, no one likes to be rolled over. None of us like to have someone lording over us. This is one of the main reasons, at least I believe, this is one of the main reasons we have an issue or have a hard time, a difficult time dealing with the subject or the teachings of submission. We don't like to feel like we're submitting. We have someone, not just someone above us that we answer to, but we fear that if someone has that power, they'll lord it over us. They'll abuse that power, as many do. Well, consider this. Consider how much more difficult this is when that tyrant is our relative. Yes. I mean, it is bad enough, when anyone wants to treat us in this manner. Yet, when the very one who places such expectations on us and makes such demands of us, when that very person is a relative of the family, a member of the family, the angst and the emotional pain that accompanies such treatment is compounded, to say the very least. Yes, that is the truth. The pain truly is worse. And these people are not just expecting a lot of us. Their treatment is as such that they are demanding. Friend, no one wants to be around or associate with those types of people, with those who treat them like a hearling. I mean, that is true whether they're a member of the family or not. Yet, for the sake of our lesson today, let's assume that the demander is a distant relative. And with that being said, why? Why is this such an issue? Any thoughts? Well, first of all, this person is not an employee. They were not hired on. And second, a hearling, by definition, is a person who is hired to do menial tasks for very little pay. And here, the maker of this list, the one who, made the list of menial tasks could have done them himself. Not to mention, the one who is doing all the work isn't getting paid a penny. No, not even an ounce of kindness. So, this begs the question, what are we to do? I mean, besides breaking away from this person and having nothing more to do with him or her, what can you do? What can I do? Well, that is what I want to talk with you about today. That is what the crux of the lesson will be about. I mean, I have real issues with such people, and I'm sure you very well do as well if you know some who are like this. And what are we to do? Well, when we come back, I'm going to dive in to some specifics. I want to share 5 guidelines that I follow that I believe are very helpful. They can help turn a situation around. It's not a proven formula that it always will. So there's no promises, or I'm not saying follow these and you'll have the cure. Yet they can be helpful and sometimes do turn the situation around. And I want to get into that. But first, we're going to step away to our first commercial break.
Are you on the edge of your seat and wanting more? Stay tuned as we go on a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Insights to Incite with Brandon Lawson right here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Are you seeking a speaker or coach who speaks life into your people? If so, look no further. Brandon Lawson is one who will inspire and motivate his audience, as well as empathize and relate to all. Reach out to Brandon and let him be your speaker and life coach by sending an email to brandon@connectandimpact.net or by calling him at 513-708-1517. Brandon looks forward to speaking with you, to you, and for you. Let's connect and impact today. Insights to Incite, a real show with real-life messages. This show, which can be found on radio, TV, and our podcast, gives us insight to incite us to action and to excellence. Watch and or listen to Insights to Incite live at noon Eastern Time every Thursday on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Check out our past episodes on iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Join us each week, and together we will escape the mundane. We are back with more Insights to Incite, so get ready and tune in to listen and watch. Now, once again, let's join Brandon Lawson.
So, what is it that we can do? If you're in a relationship with someone who's like this culprit or bandit of sorts, or maybe you're not in a relationship such as an intimate relationship of such, but you do have a family member who you see from time to time. They may not be in your immediate family, but when you go to family gatherings, you see that individual. What are you to do? Well, I put this together. It said, what to do when it's you. You are not a hearling. 5 guidelines that I follow that just might be useful and beneficial to you. First of all, recognize the times. Yes. Friend, you need to address this issue. And with that said, this means that you have to confront this person. But first, recognize the times. And these times that I'm speaking of, when I say recognize these times are not, seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks. We're not talking about those those measuring units of such, but I'm talking about a few things. And the first one is, recognize yourself as well as that person or those people. Just what is the mentality of each person in the room, each person who's present there, wherever you might be. You might be standing outside. You may not be in an enclosed room or house or building at all, but recognize the mentality of each person that is present. That's the first thing. And the second is to recognize the mood that's in the air? What is, you know, what do you sense? What is the environment? What kind of feeling do you have about, you know, your surroundings? What's going on? What is that small inner voice, that still voice known as your conscience saying to you? What is the atmosphere like? Then third, when it comes to each individual, are you the only ones there? Just you and the other party, whether it's one or two people or however many is it, or are there other people there? Are you in a public venue where there's others around? Take notice of that, and also consider whether it's yourself or one of them, or maybe just one other person. But do any of you or either of you are using a time crunch? You got plenty of time, before you go much further into this. You want to be aware that if someone only has 10, 12 minutes before they have to go, then this isn't the time. So recognizing the times, could be rephrased as recognize or read the mentality of each person, who's present, that has to do with this scenario or that you're looking to discuss and, you need to confront. Recognize the mentality. Recognize the mood in the air. What kind of spirit is present? What kind of mood, atmosphere, or environment? Take notice of your surroundings and how does it feel? Then third, recognize the moment. Is this the right time to get into this? So that is the first thing. Recognize the times. And, I say this, and this second one may sound a bit odd or off, but the second guideline is don't expect to resolve this matter. Don't expect that you will come to a resolution over this matter. And that might sound like it goes against the grain of what I would be teaching or what I would share. So why would I say that? You might be saying, don't expect to. Why not? Am I saying that because you safeguard yourself in case you fail? No. I say that because, when we go forth with this total confidence, we have this, confidence that says, I got it. I got this. When we go forth with that, what happens is our confidence, portrays a quiet arrogance, or even if it doesn't, it is often perceived as such. Yes, people constantly, when they see others who are confident, they may see it as a quiet arrogance, even if it's not. A lot of times it's their own insecurity, and it's reflected on you in that way. But when we go forth with a total confidence as such, that will often be something that works against us in that respect. And the fact of the matter is, if that person or those people see this or perceive this to be the case, which happens more times than not, if they perceive that to be the case, then I've lost them. And if I lost that person or those people, then I've already lost in this opportunity or this time when I go to try to get this resolved. When I go forth, and to try to resolve this matter, it's already a lost cause if I've lost the individual. Thus I say, don't approach the other party believing you will indeed resolve this matter. And third, expect a series not a single. Yes. And I'm speaking about the conversation you have, or rather, I'm referring or inferring that it's not going to be just a conversation. These will be a series of conversations. That is what we're looking at. Yes. No, do not even speak of the issue in the first conversation, nor in the first several conversations. Don't even bring the issue up. Leave it out. It's not even to be a part of the conversation, the discussion. Instead, what you want to do is talk with them about something that is of interest to them and something that you know, or at the very least are pretty certain that you both will agree on. You don't want to talk about something that's going to be a matter of conflict. You don't need that. And if so you want to make sure at the very best that you can try to make sure it's something that you will agree on and that it's something of interest to them. And so as you do this, make this your topic of conversation, and you not to talk about the same thing every time, but each time, even along the lines of other topics, make sure that meets this criteria. And share in these conversations with them for the foreseeable future. So, in your conversations, as you share with him or her or with them, and elaborate over these subjects of discussion for a bit of time, do so for a little while or for as long as you see that they are attuned to the discussion, to the conversation. And I say that because you don't want to, you spoke 4 minutes and had to run. That seems superficial. I mean, you've probably seen that of someone who you say, you got a minute? And you got a minute, John? I'd like to talk to you. And you're 3-4 minutes in, maybe you reach 5 minutes, and well, John's we're talking real quick, and then you can tell that he's wanting to get away. He's not even wanting to be there. And even that little bit of time they gave amounted in your eyes, or to the way you feel, as it was not even worth it, because they were so bent on wanting to leave rather than being present in the moment. So that's why I say, talk with them for a decent amount of time each time you have these conversations, as long as you see they're attuned to the conversation. And how will you know this? You will know this by, how much they're involved. Are they chiming in, and making comments and inquiries, asking questions, and are they engaged in the conversation? That is how you will know whether they're attuned, and are they talking about matters that are relevant to the discussion, the topic at hand. If they keep trying to change the subject, that's a sign that even though they're talking, they are, pretty much saying, I'm not even interested in trying to, get you off the subject. But if they're really tuned into the subject and to the topic, and they're a part of the discussion, then try to keep it going. And that makes for good conversation. And, this is what you want to do, and have these types of conversations off and on for a lengthy stretch of time. And we could be looking at 7 or 8 weeks, perhaps as long as 11 to 12 weeks, or maybe longer, or it could be a shorter period of time. This is another instance where we want to recognize the times, sort of read the moment, get a feel. You have to judge it based on what you're seeing, how things are going. Do you go on this longer? But you would do this, and as you do this, you will eventually you know, have an opportunity to bring up the original issue if you even need to. But nonetheless, expect for these conversations to accomplish their purpose over the long haul. These are not likely to be a quick fix. And as I said, in time, the opportunity will present itself for you to bring up the original issue if you even need to. So, just what do I mean? Well, please continue with me, and you will find out. As we go through this lesson will answer that question for you. But I'm just gonna do a quick review. But the first of these 5 guidelines, one is recognize the times. 2 is don't expect to resolve this matter. 3 is expect a series, not a single. Then 4, regulate your schedule and request their assistance. As you frequent the other party in conversation and your talks are more hearty and collaborative, adjust your schedule. And when I say adjust your schedule, what I am saying is look to fill it with other activities and events. Preferably nothing that is so important that you cannot miss it, that you cannot get away, that you just have to be there. So hopefully it's nothing that's that imperative. But in doing this, you become less and less available to stop in at their place of residence and to do their list of chores and tasks. And I am not here to suggest that you eventually back out altogether. I'm not just trying to say that you back out altogether in helping them, although I am, saying that you want to look to decrease the frequency in which you stop by their place to do their work. With that said, try to still be available for conversations with them, to talk with them, either in person or over the phone. However, not so much when it comes to doing the list of chores they have. Try to find a way to limit your availability. And again, I say, have more things on your schedule, because I don't want to advocate you lying to them and saying you're not available if you could be. If you have something on your schedule, then you saying you're not available is legit. So that's what you do. But then at times when you do stop in at their residence to help them with a task, a chore, to do some work, remember, you are there to help them. You did not stop by to do their work unless they are injured. They are, injured or disabled in some form. And assuming he is not injured, he is not disabled, or she is not sick or deformed in any way, shape, or form, while you are doing some work, request his assistance or ask for her help. This could be the result of you needing more than 2 hands to be present at that point as you're doing something. Could be as simple as that. You need more than 2 hands present to accomplish that task. Other times, you might request that he or she, dare I say it, do one of the chores, do one of the tasks on the list. And as you request some assistance, do this by naturally incorporating the request into the flow of work. Whenever possible, try not to allude to the fact that any request you make for their assistance to a chore, or for their assistance of a chore that they have written down on the list, If it's written on the list, try not to allude to the fact that it is. Always attempt to be as discreet as possible. And what I'm getting at is you don't want to say, Susie, you have this on your list. Could you do that? Don't even bring up that it's on the list. For instance, if she wants you to put a display shelf up on the living room wall, well, to put it up properly, you probably will need to use your drill to make some inserts into the wall. And, well, wouldn't you know it? One of those menial tasks on her list was to vacuum the floors. So you would say, Susie, after I drill these little inserts and fix this display shelf, will you vacuum the floor? Unfortunately, there's really no way for me to drill these holes in the wall, which I need to do, without dust and debris falling onto the floor. Well, Susie just might surprise you. Yes, she might vacuum the living room floor, the hallway, the 3 bedrooms, and she might even go as far as vacuuming the upholstery of the love seat and the sofa. Yes. She might really shock you in that respect. And then 5, gradually increase to a point their assistance and involvement. Is Susie at peace or even happy to help? Does she gladly assist you, or does she resent you requesting her assistance? Are there times when she's glad to help and other times when she's not, but in the same day, the same time? Just a minute ago she was happy and now she's perturbed. If so, again, take note. Are there other factors present when she's not happy to assist you? Are there extenuating circumstances already weighing upon her? Was her spirit or mood already downcast when you came together? Or perhaps you need to scale it back a bit and wait before you ask for her for more assistance. This is why I say gradually increase to a point. Pay attention. Yes, pay attention. Don't overdo it. So, and friends, when I say involvement, as number 5 here was to gradually increase to a point their assistance and involvement. So when I say involvement, I am not being redundant in meaning involvement with the chores. Actually, what I'm referring to is, totally separate from that. As you notice Susie's and her heavy spirit is lifting and that Susie is more open. She's happier and more outgoing. This is to say she's at peace more often. Perhaps you find that she regularly initiates good conversation with you that has nothing to do with her needs, but it's just about life in general. And by the way, this is what often happens when we apply the first 3 guidelines that I've mentioned, or the first 4 guidelines that I've mentioned here. But in seeing Susie's happiness and openness, you invite her to a gathering or you include her in some other worthwhile, meaningful way. In doing this, you speak to her heart. Her heart is touched, and very easily a bond is formed. Then, from this point forward, this point on, that bond can be established, solidified, and strengthened. These invitations and inclusions, these are what I'm talking about here. These are the involvement I am speaking of. It is these involvements that will often help your connection with Susie to grow to the next level and beyond. Yes. Why? Why is that? Well, think about it. It's because unlike your request for assistance, which is an occasion where you need something from her or of her, the invitation to come over or to join you just because is an act of conclusion and an opportunity to give to her. These invitations are an opportunity for her to receive and be filled, not the other way around. In fact, you both, yes, you can both receive and be filled without any real withdrawal being made from either of you. Think about it. Think about that. Envision that. And as you think about it, ask yourself, now, isn't that the picture of real friendship? Real friendship, you think about it, two people, three people together, they're given to one another, but they don't feel any withdrawal being made of themselves. They're gladly given, and each one's receiving. They're being filled, and it makes that experience together so worthwhile, such a joy. That, my friends, is the picture of real friendship. So, before you know it, this uncooperative relative who treated you like a hireling and never gave you a penny of kindness or respect for any of your help, now doesn't ask for much help from you and even offers herself to you to assist you with different tasks that you have to do at your place. Instead of expecting from you or demanding of you, Susie gladly wants to give her assistance to help you. Yes, she has learned there's much more in giving of oneself as opposed to being on the receiving end each time. While we do need to learn how to receive, as all of us will be in need at some point and for some reason, it is always a good thing to give yourself away for the betterment of others. Yes. Luke, the doctor, as he's known as in the scripture, Luke, that was his profession, but Luke wrote in the book of Acts in chapter 20, where we find Paul, that is the Apostle Paul, giving his farewell address to the Ephesian elders. In verse 35 here, remembering the words of the Lord Jesus, it writes, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." And verse 35 as a whole says, "I have shown you," this is Paul speaking to the Ephesian elders as he's getting ready to leave, the farewell address here. "I have shown you in every way by laboring like this, that you must support the weak and remember the words of the Lord Jesus, that he said, 'It is more blessed to give than to receive.'" Friends, while that is true, and remembering the poor, remembering a certain segment, I personally have found that this is especially true and often is extremely rewarding when our giving blesses a specific soul, meaning when it's more personal and not just a specific crowd or demographic of the public, such as the poor or whatever it might be. When it's a specific individual that bond that's created, you really get to know that person. That person, the bond that's made is one that is a friendship you'll never forget. And while you might do more of the giving than they, give to you in terms of what you give up or what you provide or offer them, I think we all know we will often, the giver will be the one that's often filled more than the other person. The other person is filled immensely as well. It's not that you're not doing much, but what you get in return, just the warmth, the fulfillment, and knowing how you're making such a difference. And you get to see the difference. You get to know firsthand just how great a difference, just how much you've impacted that person when it's a personal matter, a personal thing compared to donating to, the the Diabetes Research Foundation or the American Cancer Society. Those are great things to do. But when it's personal, you really get to see the impact you make, which just is so much more rewarding. Plus, another thing you can do is, since you're right there, you know them and you personally are connected to them and you get to see them and be around them, you actually have a greater opportunity to help them when things are going wrong, compared to you wrote a check or you gave food to a food drive or whatever it is. Once you release whatever that is, you can only hope it did good. But when you come alongside someone, you have greater leverage to make a difference and to help them to rise out of their situation. You can truly have compassion upon the individual and make a world of difference in their life. So, well, we are nearing the end of our show, and with that said, we are going to step away ever so briefly for our second commercial break.
Wow, that was insightful. Stay tuned as we go on a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Insights to Incite right here on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Are you seeking a speaker or coach who speaks life into your people? If so, look no further. Brandon Lawson is one who will inspire and motivate his audience, as well as empathize and relate to all. Reach out to Brandon and let him be your speaker and life coach by sending an email to brandon@connectandimpact.net
Or by calling him at 513-708-1517.
Brandon looks forward to speaking with you, to you, and for you. Let's connect and impact today. Insights to Incite, a real show with real-life messages. This show, which can be found on radio, TV, and our podcast, gives us insight to incite us to action and to excellence. Watch and or listen to Insights to Incite live at noon Eastern Time every Thursday on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Check out our past episodes on iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Join us each week, and together we will escape the mundane. We are back with more Insights to Incite, so get ready and tune in to listen and watch. Now, once again, let's join Brandon Lawson.
As I was speaking of that fourth guideline in the 5 that I gave you, when I spoke of the fourth guideline that I follow when faced with such a scenario, I spoke of when we would go over to that person's residence to help them. I was specific in saying we are there to help them unless they are sick and or injured. Roxy, if you want to show that slide to our viewers here. You there, Rox? There we go. Thank you. But here, the highlighted thing here, you do not stop by to do their work unless he or she is injured or disabled in some form. I bring that up because there are 2 verses worth sharing, both of which come from the writings of the Apostle Paul. In 2 Corinthians 3, verse 10, it reads, For even when we were with you, we would give you this command. If anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat. Here, the scripture specifically says that if a man will not work, he shall not eat. Yes, welfare was never meant to be an ongoing handout for those who refuse to work. It's not meant to be an enabler so that people can be lazy and continue to be lazy or refuse to work. Instead, it was meant for them who legitimately fell on hard times, as this next passage alludes to. If our loved ones are hurting or injured, unable to work, or have fallen on hard times, perhaps they lost their job, their car, or their home and their belongings, or they had a wreck or a fire. Well, those who are believers are commanded to help them. Let's see what Paul wrote in his letter to Timothy, his understudy. In 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8, it reads, "But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." Friend, so there we have it. The help is not meant to be, so we're not to abuse it. You're not to receive help so you can do nothing, so you can refuse to work and have everybody else do it. Yet at the same time, when people really are in need, we're called to help them. And friend, I am about to conclude our show. Thus, I will say, it is a given. It is a given that you and I will never see eye to eye on everything that I share or everything that I say. But nonetheless, I invite you to join me each Thursday at 12 noon Eastern here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV for another episode of Eye to Eye, Insights to Incite. Thank you for joining us. I now want to leave you with a lighter note, leave you on a lighter note with some slides that Roxy will read. And these are they have to do with those people who don't want to work or refuse to work. Roxy, take it away.
People say nothing is impossible, but I do nothing every day. I'm not running away from hard work. I'm too lazy to run. I've heard that hard work never killed anyone, but I say, why take the chance? By Ronald Reagan. My only hobby is laziness, which naturally rules out all others. By Granny Nazano. And Thomas Taylor says, too many young people itch for what they want without scratching for it.
Thank you for joining us.
Wow, what an insightful show. Thanks for listening in and watching today. If you missed any part of today's show or any other episode, check it out on iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Now take today's insight and utilize it. Incite yourself to action and to excellence in the week ahead, and join us again next Thursday and every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Time for another insightful session with Brandon Lawson as he speaks to us and shares some more insights to incite right here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV.